have our invocation and pledge by Vice Mayor.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this night, Lord. Thank you for this day, Lord. We just ask that you be with us through this meeting, Lord. Guide us and direct us, Father. And Lord, again, I just want to always uplift our first responders, Lord. I pray that you keep them safe and bring them home to their families every night, Lord. Again, just be with us as we do our business here, Lord, for it's in his name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we'll have approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the amended agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, approval of the consent agenda from minutes of February 12th, 2026 commission meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda from February 12th, 2026.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Special presentations. Presentation for ongoing approval for displaying veterans crosses and flags for Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Mr. Mayor, Barb and Ken Miller are here. They may want to speak to this, but you guys may remember that they had put up these crosses along Highway 27 last year for Veterans Day, and they did an absolutely beautiful job. Chief Shepherd's dad's flag is right there, and cross is there. Granddad, I'm sorry, Chief. And the Millers wanted to discuss with us what the process would be to get ongoing permission to do this every year for more Memorial Day and Veterans Day, just to continue on with this project.
Actually, yes, I'm Barb, and this is my husband, Ken. Yes, we are Ken and Barbie. Anyways, we have a nonprofit company. It's Our Veterans, Our Heroes. We're registered with the state, and the sole focus of this company is to have the crosses that honor our veterans and have the American flag posted with it. Okay? So last year in November, we had City Commission approval. We displayed hero crosses with the American flag prior to Veterans Day. We received very positive feedback from not only our clients, the ones who bought the subscription, if you will, but also when I was in Alachua, I was getting comments, hey, did y'all see that y'all got crosses? Yeah, as a matter of fact, no way. Anyways, to alleviate the need to come before the City Commission twice each year, we're asking for approval in perpetuity for displaying the heroes' crosses and American flags approximately 2 weeks prior to Memorial Day and 2 weeks prior to Veterans Day. Since Memorial Day changes each year, it's the last Monday, somewhere between the 25th and the 31st. So I can't really give you a date that we're looking, so it's easier to just say 2 weeks prior, somewhere right around there. Let's see, so we'll get the flags installed and the crosses installed 2 weeks-ish prior to the holiday, have them removed the day after the holiday, so it's not going to be up for who knows how long. It'll be one day after. We also understand that gaining approvals for the display areas are our responsibility. So last November, with the help of Commissioner Whites, we received approvals from businesses along 27, including SciMed Health, Seaglass Travel, the Women's Club, and others. We also met with St. Bartholomew's to get approval along the church area. And we will basically work within the same area and get approvals as needed, with our focus being that the crosses and flags are not impeding drivers' views along 27. Because first priority is having a good product, second is make sure people don't wreck because of it. And during the installation of heroes, crosses, and American flags, we welcome anyone interested to assist. in doing the installations. So y'all are welcome to join us again.
How long does, if someone purchases one, how long do they have until they have to renew?
So it'll be displayed 2 Veterans Days and 2 Memorial Days. So we displayed November of 25. So that'll be November of 25 and 26. But the original Memorial Day will be in 26. So the second is 27. So it's 2 of each holiday.
So, Mr. Marshall, would it be possible for us to do like a biannually renewal, so that way whoever purchased that, say if we just get a whole nother commission and the next commission say they don't like the idea, they won't be like on the hook for people that have already purchased their.
I think the problem with that is if someone purchases, based upon what Barbie is saying, is that if someone purchases in November of 26, they're going to be 26 and 27. It doesn't matter that there are people on the 25, 26 schedule, right? Because I imagine you don't limit people. You're not telling people that they can't buy for the first time this November.
No.
Right.
No, we're gonna, here's my positive thinking. After we get approval tonight, then I can start advertising for Memorial Day.
I think, though, to your concern, we can make it such that you're granting indefinite approval absent a subsequent revocation by a commission, at which point we'll notify Barbie and Ken in writing that it's no longer a standing approval, would be my thought to accomplish that.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a question. So is the intent then, after the 2 years that they're displayed, that the family would get those, or could they just
They
pay
would
for another
renew it.
2 years?
They would renew it.
They would
for another
renew.
2
Gotcha.
years. So the original is $75 for the first 2 years. And because everything is already made, the only thing we need to replace is probably the flag. Putting them out, they should last. But if it gets to where it's not in pristine, for lack of a better word, if it's not looking like it should, then we need to replace that flag. And those are $35 each. So to do that, I've just built it in as a $45 charge because I don't know what the flag company's gonna do with their prices.
They seemed to weather the first display pretty well,
They did.
and that really was beautiful.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Marshall, I guess my question to you would be, administratively, what would this process look like? Do they fill out one permit application and then, elucidate the details they've given us here? And that would be administratively approved?
I would think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just tell me how you want me to do it, and we can give them a blanket. We can give them a blanket approval, like Danielle said, and I'll type something up in the approval application. It says that this is for until notified in writing that they can no longer do it. So let's give them a blanket one, and until another commission says no more, they have approval for the 2 holidays. We'll spell it out in there. So 2 weeks prior to the holiday, 1 to 3 business days afterwards. Yeah, we can make it pretty easy.
Looking forward, with how well received they were originally, I would think that the biggest challenge going forward is getting sufficient space.
Yes.
So.
Somebody else brought that up to me today.
Yeah. I don't know if, I know 441 is DOT, and that's a whole nother beast.
Yes.
So.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
On Main Street and on 27 are the 2 areas that I believe we would have access. But it has to be completely out of drivers being impeded
Yeah.
to see.
I've got a question.
So to do this, I would need a motion and a second to authorize me to administratively approve a perpetual approval for this for the 2 holidays until notified in writing that that's been revoked.
I'd be happy to make that motion, Mr. Marshall, that we approve this administrative process to give them the ability to display 2 weeks before Memorial Day, 2 weeks before Veterans Day, in perpetuity until such time that would be revoked.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Hold on.
Oh,
Public comment.
Public
You've got a
comment.
motion.
I'm sorry. Public comment. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Thank you
Alright,
very
that's
much.
approved.
Thank you.
And I'll say this: if you need more space, I do have a barbershop on 27th, so you can put it. Yeah. All right. So unfinished business item number 1: discuss, consider, and act on remaining charter amendments passed by the Charter Review Board in 2024. I know that Ms. Sue Weller is here. Did you want to speak to this?
I was the chair of the Charter Review Board back in 2024, where we ended up proposing about 15 amendments to the charter. In 2024, I think 5 went before the electors, and they voted for those. And then last year, 2025, another 5 were put before them, and they voted on that. So what you have remaining now are 5 other amendments to different sections. I can go over those sections if you'd like. The first one is Section 2.02, Election and Terms, and basically, the language that's being proposed here says that a candidate that is running for a particular seat receiving the greatest number of votes shall be declared the winner. If the vote count results in a tie, the winner shall be determined by the flip of a coin by the city clerk the same day of the election. And then the next section would be B. It states the first meeting of each newly elected commission for induction into office shall be held at the next regularly scheduled city commission meeting occurring after the election. It used to be that at least, not used to be, but in the current charter, it states that they will be inducted immediately after, which we don't do. We wait until the next commission meeting following the election to induct the commission. And then as far as the language about receiving the greatest number of votes will be declared the winner. Currently, it is a majority. The one individual that has the majority votes, there's nothing different about that. It's just stating that that's how it is. I know in the language it talks about that's going to go on the ballot. It talks about plurality, but that it means the majority. And I kind of would, if the attorneys, if it's okay, it would be clearer, I think, at least on the ballot, if it said majority as opposed to plurality.
I think that's mirroring state statute, but I don't think we're at the word count for that one, so I can't imagine why we couldn't put in parentheses majority behind it,
Okay.
to your point.
Sure. And that's the other thing I think that anyone that's watching this should know, that what is actually going on the ballot is not necessarily the actual language of the proposed amendments, because they only have, 75 or 75 words to spell out what those changes are that are going to be on the ballot. And the other piece of that talks about the flip of a coin by the city clerk if there is an actual tie. As far as I know, we've never had a tie, but there was nothing in the charter to indicate that. So that's Section 202. Section 206, the commission employee relationship. There was new language added in there. There's 3 sections, A, B, and C. In A, there was some language inserted that talked about basically, nor shall a commission or any of its members give orders, and this is new language, either publicly or privately, directly or indirectly to any employee other than commission orders to a charter officer. 2 new sections were added. Commissioners may discuss with the city manager any matter of city business. However, no individual commissioner shall direct or order the city manager to act on any such matter. And then the other one, C, a majority of the commission, less the members in question, may vote to censure a member who violates this charter. Censure is a statement of disapproval in the form of a resolution that is adopted. Some of this language comes from past experience, where, in fact, when I was on the commission, we had a commissioner, after the commission, that commission had decided that we were not going to go move forward on a project. That commissioner went and ordered the city manager to order a golf cart, and that city manager bought the golf cart, and then the commission had to turn around and tell the city manager to sell it. That was a direct violation of the charter. So this language is trying to make sure it's very clear as to what you can and can't do. And then the next section is, I can get this open. 2.09. This is a brand new section. It's forfeiture of office. It was not in the charter before, and this talks about the actual, if there's a violation of the charter, how a commissioner can be removed. And it basically says a member of the commission may forfeit the office if the member lacks at any time during their term of office any qualification for the office prescribed by this charter or by law, violates any express prohibition of this charter, is convicted of a felony, misses 3 consecutive regularly scheduled monthly commission meetings without being excused by the commission. Then it goes on to say, if any of these events should occur, a quasi-judicial hearing shall automatically be conducted no later than the second regularly scheduled commission meeting to occur after the occurrence of the event, but no sooner than 10 days after the event occurs, with substantive and procedural due process, and the member may be declared to have forfeited the office by supermajority vote of the commission. The catalyst was actually for putting this language in there was we were provided 9 charters from various different cities our size, and this language came from one of those charters, at least one of those. I don't remember now if it was just one or more than one. The other section 3.04, city manager powers and duties. There was no change to sections A through F. There was a new K and a new L section added. And it says that the city manager shall use his or her best efforts to gain residency in the city within 12 months of appointment to his or her term of office and maintain residency within the city for the duration of his or her appointment. For good cause shown by a supermajority, the city commission may permit exceptions to the residency requirement or extend the 12-month period during which such residency shall be obtained. And then L is may discuss with any member, may discuss with any member of the commission any matter of city business, however, shall not act on direction or orders from a singular member of the commission on any such matter. And this is based upon the residency issue is based upon the fact that we felt that a city manager should be required to live in the city. Now, we have had instances where a city manager could not find a residence, and the commission then extended the time for them to be able to find a residence within the city. So that gives the opportunity for the commission to allow extra time for a city manager to find that time. And then the other piece is based upon the fact of the feeling that the commission as a whole gives the city manager direction, and it should not be any individual city manager that gives them direction. And then the last one is section 4.03, qualifying. And this one talks about the candidates for office of city commission or for appointment to fill a vacancy on the city commission shall have maintained a primary, principal, and physical residence within the city of High Springs for more than 1 year preceding qualification, be a registered voter of Alachua County, Florida, and maintain such residency and voter registration throughout their terms of office. So this just recognizes that someone's looking to become a commissioner. They should have gained a greater knowledge of our city before they run for office. And that's it.
Mr. Mayor, before you all start deliberations, I have to apologize to Ms. Weller. The reason that we didn't put majority is because in election law, majority is considered 50% or more of the votes.
Okay.
So perhaps we put something plurality, the most votes in parentheses or
Okay.
something to that effect. So I was sitting here trying to decide why we didn't make that easier,
Right.
and that was why. So
Yeah,
I apologize.
Yeah, it just needs to make sure that individuals looking at it understand.
Know what plurality, yeah, sure. In election law, I mean, that's a very nuanced thing. So I
Okay.
just wanted to correct myself. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I attended all but one of the Charter Review Board's workshops, and they did a fantastic job. They were comprehensive, they were thoughtful, and they worked really well together as a group, and I just want to make sure that I put that out there. I have a question for you, Angela. We have to pay for all of this on the ballot, is that correct?
This year because it's on their ballot. Yeah, if it takes, it depends on if it fits in the space. If it goes longer than, and it causes it to go to an additional page, then we have to pay.
Can you give me an idea of what that cost is?
I really cannot, because
Okay.
it's gonna depend on how many ballots they have to print, how many people go out to vote.
Do you know how much space is, I'm sorry.
No,
Do you
go
know how
ahead.
much space is given?
No, it's gonna depend on whatever is on the ballot. So, you mean for each thing?
Because you said that unless it goes to another page.
Right,
it'll
it
be-
depends on what if the county has some things they want the citizens to vote on. So I can't really say because I don't know what's on her ballot.
So they could take up a whole page, and if we add something, then we get
You're
charged.
paying for a whole other, yeah, yep.
So I like to tell you that you'll probably end up paying. But again, it's gonna depend on now, it'll depend on just how many ballots.
Okay.
With that question being raised, do you recall how much we paid the last time for these being put on there, or anything else we had on there? Off the top of your head?
I do not
Okay.
apologize.
So I'll say this, I think last time I liked the fact that we did not put all of them all at once. And I think even with the amount that we put on there, recently there's been questions about one that was passed during that time that a lot of people now regret because they did not read. And so I think that it would be smart not to do all of them again and select a certain amount. Because I've been getting a lot of phone calls about a particular one.
Really?
Um,
I have some input on this in terms of the residency requirements for the city manager. I know that a lot of municipalities are kind of shying away from that because it can be hard to get city managers now, and having that kind of a restriction makes it a little bit more challenging at times. And I understand the board's goals in terms of maintaining residency for more than a year. But I don't know for me if that holds enough muster to modify the charter. And I'm just thinking in terms of, I think we got the first 10, they were to me the most substantial. So a lot of the verbiage in this and a lot of the apparent intent appears to be divisive, and that's where I have a problem. I know that state statute does not provide for censure. I checked. And there has to be that in the city charter. But I think that in my mind, gentlemen, I think we need to be doing what we can to work together as well as we can. And I think this would sow some seeds for dissension. I don't think I understand the golf cart issue. I don't think that any of us are directing Mr. Marshall to make purchases or do things singularly on our own. I think we're pretty good about talking about it up here. In terms of the plurality in voting and the tie, I hate the idea of a flip of a coin, but I concur with Mrs. Weller that I don't think we've ever had a tie. But right now, really the only thing substantial in terms of codifying better is that they would be sworn in at the next commission meeting, and we're already doing that. So are we, Danielle, in violation of our charter by not doing it immediately that night?
Technically.
Then I think we need to make that right. That,
Well, and keep in mind too that the way that this whole process works, if there are bits and pieces of the charter amendments that the charter review board has put together that you really like and you'd like on the ballot, we can change the questions to address those pieces. So you all have ultimate decision-making authority.
Right.
But yes, I mean, to you and Ms. Weller's point, right now, we're not doing what the charter says. And I was talking to Scott about it, and Scott was like, in my entirety, we've never done it that way.
Right.
Because it's impractical. Who's going to come back to City Hall at 10 o'clock at night after Angela and I have ripped open 80 ballots and put them through machines to sit, you guys sit down to swear someone in. It's just not going to happen.
Right,
And it's an important moment. You want those people's family to be there, and
sure.
so
So technically, we're in violation of charter. Do you think that that makes us legally vulnerable? Because we have been doing it that way all along. Does that leave us exposed as a city? Could somebody sue us?
it would. They'd have to have standing to sue you. So it couldn't be that someone off the street comes in and says, you all didn't swear in Commissioner Howell that night, you swore him in at the next meeting. They don't have standing to sue for that. If Commissioner Howell came in and said, I was supposed to be sworn in that night and I wasn't, maybe, but what are his damages? You've got to establish damages for a lawsuit. So, I mean, Commissioner Howell, if in my hypothetical gets sworn in the following Tuesday or following Thursday versus that Thursday night, he doesn't have any damages. It's just something that should be fixed, but it's not the end of the world in the interim.
Even when him or I were elected last time, we had no duties until that we were sworn in anyway
Right.
from the election.
Right.
We're just still a citizen until that time.
Well, none of you can act individually anyways.
Right.
Right.
So it's not like, you had something you were supposed to be doing for a week and you couldn't do it because we didn't swear you in until the following week. You all can't act as individuals. So it's something that should be fixed. I agree wholeheartedly, but in terms of legal liability, I'm not desperately concerned.
And the mechanism by fixing that would be we'd have to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, you put it as a
Okay,
referendum question.
Okay. I mean, I get what you're saying about we're not tremendously legally vulnerable, but I think that's something that we should tidy up.
Oh, I
And
agree.
It's a pretty straightforward question.
It should be fixed. And I think that was something that the Charter Review Board identified as,
Right,
it should be
right.
fixed to match what we're doing.
Right. I don't like the idea of the flip of a coin being in there, and I know Angela's probably going to just look crosswise at me, but, a runoff election would be what most people would do if you had a tie. But that's also expensive. We'd have to do that. I don't know how we would do that. Flip of a coin after all of that.
I think that I get it, the flip of a coin, a lot stands on it, but if you do a runoff, I believe you're gonna have even less people come out and vote, which is it's a big thing for me. Like it's, like when Vice Mayor and I ran, 700 people came out. We have 7,000.
Yeah.
It's 10%.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I get it, but, paper, rock, scissors, 3.
Yeah. And I'm not opposed to flip the coin because if half of everybody voted for you, half of everybody
yeah.
voted for me, really,
It's a win.
everybody likes both. So
Yeah.
go ahead
Yeah.
and flip the
Okay.
coin.
Fair point.
Because like he said, then you get a runoff, and my half decided, hey, we
Yeah.
did you the first time, we're not coming.
One of the, Mayor, one of the things that the Charter Review Board brought up too is then you're having a runoff and it's the holiday season.
Right.
Because you're not
Yeah,
gonna have it
yeah,
directly after,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
So then you're gonna have even less people come out
Yeah.
to vote.
Well, also, it's your mindset of having to get pumped up for this.
Right.
You need to have it settled and be done with it.
Yeah. Okay. I concede the coin. I understood. No problem.
I see it your way also, but it's like,
No,
man,
no,
we
I-
need to
yeah.
get this done and go
Yes,
and
sir.
move on.
Yes, sir.
And that's like a 99% chance that
Oh.
it'll never happen.
Right.
And now it's gonna happen.
We're all going to go play the lotto afterwards.
Okay. So number one, as it is here. And then, honestly, gentlemen, my request or motion would be that the other 4 just be left and would be finished with the process.
Keep in mind, Mr. Mayor, that the decision you all are making tonight is what comes back in front of you as an ordinance, because it's got to go through your ordinance
Right,
process.
right.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion, sure, yes, sir. I'd make a motion that we approve putting item number 1, providing plurality voting system solution to a tie and designated date of induction through to the ballot for November, and then leave the other 4.
What does?
Give me- I just want to talk a little bit more about number 1, or number 5, I'm sorry. So we don't, so right now, there's nothing in there about how long a city commissioner needs to live in the city.
Right.
There's nothing in there.
Right. I absolutely understand the validity of that as well. I think there's a lot of merit to that as well.
Because, I mean, there's going to be growth coming real soon. We're going to get some new people in here, and if, you know, if somebody wants to go and run and they meet the qualifications on there, then, I don't know, it's, I felt like it was, a long shot for myself, and I'd been here for 7 years, so, there's still a lot to learn about this city. I don't know, it's, I think that's,
Okay. So I could
mean,
amend
I
my
agree.
motion to include number 5 to go through. I understand your perspective.
Is this the
entirely.
remaining ones that we have left to get?
Yes, sir.
taken
Those are the
care
last
of?
5.
Yep, this is it. Yep.
And none of these we can get done out here other than putting them on the ballot, correct?
Correct.
I'm almost ready to just get washed of this whole thing and be done with it and move on, just to take care of some other business and have to deal with this next year. But I also understand the importance of the money of putting these on the ballots.
Now I did have a question before you go too far. So I remember last year we had an issue that they were jumbled together, like number 3. That's like 2 separate issues on one question.
Right.
So state statute, when it comes to writing these questions, says that you have to adequately describe what charter changes are being made in those 75 words. And so the other concern is that, as you all know, when you put 15 questions on a ballot, it becomes very expensive. So it became a process by which we went through with the Charter Review Board, and we said, okay, what things can we lump together and still get in that 75-word requirement? So you're right, it feels disconjointed, but the requirement is that it expresses what changes are going to happen. And we do feel as though while seemingly unrelated issues, it does adequately describe what changes are being made to the charter. That said, if you want to break it out into 2 questions or pull something out of 3, that's absolutely within your purview to do. You know, if you say, for example,
Right, because like I might be okay with.
well,
a
3
commissioner,
is all one. That's
but-
all related.
But that is 2 separate issues because it says commissioner forfeit the office in the event of lack of qualifications, but then it talked about a hearing. Like, so is that all in the same?
That's all in the same part of the charter.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question? We already have provisions in the charter that speak to missing 3
Yes.
consecutive meetings, don't we? So that's already there. The felony,
you're no
the
longer-
felony was addressed in terms of when we redid the swearing-in process.
Right.
So it establishes that in the beginning, that if you can't legally hold office according to the state requirements, then in that case. But then if you were convicted of a felony while you were in office, then that would be
Different.
something different. Which, I mean, I don't know how often that has happened, if it ever has, but I think in terms of the felony conviction or being legally allowed to hold office, we adopted the one charter recommendation to change our swearing-in process. So,
Before we move forward also, could we bring this back and let Angela kind of give us a comparison of what this was compared to what we did last year to see how much it cost?
You're not gonna know.
yeah, we
I
won't
mean,
know.
I knew going to another page is gonna cause an issue, but
Sure.
at least give us some.
Oh, what last year's cost? Well,
What?
this has to come back in front of you all as an ordinance. So like,
We have time to do this
all you're
later
doing
on,
is
right?
instructing me to write the ordinance tonight. That's really all your motion is for me to bring back the ordinance certifying the questions for the referendum. You're gonna have to go through your 2 reads like you normally do. So that information you could theoretically thumbs up all 5 tonight. We bring it back with all 5 in an ordinance, and Angela says it's gonna cost it cost X number of dollars last year, and then you guys nix 3 of the 5 questions at first read. Does that make sense?
Y'all okay with doing something of that nature?
If that's important to you,
I don't know.
I'm still really only in favor of 1 and 5 with
Okay.
Commissioner Howell's input there. You know, I mean, a lot of this telling the city manager specific instruction. Our city manager's not gonna, he's not gonna do what one of us asks him to do. I mean, a lot of this is
Are you saying we can
We're-
edit
we're-
this out?
we're all
At this
behaving
point?
like adults here.
Are you
Saying
saying we can edit this out?
we don't,
completely?
we can take
At
all
this
5 of
stage?
them or any
Oh,
of them.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
I thought we had decided about that last year, about accepting everything
We
as
held
it is.
the other 5 over until,
Yeah,
to
okay.
discussion. My motion, Mr. Vice Mayor, was to approve number 1 and number 5 to go forward, and then to be finished with this process.
Was that back to the motion?
That's the motion on the floor.
That's, yes.
I'll second.
No question. So when you say finish this process, you're saying not bring any of the other ones back?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Citizen comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
I'd like to make a suggestion, if I may. Knowing that what goes out on the ballot is very, 75 words, if the city can put onto their website the actual language, so that if people want.
That's a good idea.
Because people sometimes read that and they don't understand.
yeah.
So they need to see the actual language.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that was the complaint I had is,
Okay.
Yeah,
Can
Okay.
we make one of those videos like Kevin does?
oh.
that's right.
City Manager Marshall would
That's
love to do
right.
that.
We'll do an information blast.
Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
not promising videos, but we can definitely get it on the website and we'll put it on social media, know what you're voting for and put it in
Yeah.
layman, can I do it in layman's terms?
We're going to be really careful because you have to be very careful about expending public funds in pro or con. And it's not always just like a yay or nay. There's an extensive line of cases. SEC versus McConnell is typically your magic words test of like vote yes or yay or pro. So what we will do is the ordinance is going to come back to you all with these 2 referendum questions. Attached to it is going to be the original charter, and then Exhibit B is going to be the language changes. My suggestion would be is to post that in a conspicuous place on the website and share it via social media. Then you're not pro, you're not con, you're just sharing the ordinance that's going in front, and to Ms. Weller's point, the language is there. It's very clear. It'll be like it is now, except it'll be in the actual charter, but it'll be underlined to show you what additions are being made, would be my suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, do you think that didn't happen during the last time when you said some citizens were concerned about something? Do you think this will help, or it's not gonna affect that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have. I think with that issue, I understood why they voted the way they voted, and when they called, they didn't think that we would ever have to worry about that situation happening. And that's what happened with that particular item.
And we're the last part of that ballot, so people get bored. To be
Yes.
honest.
Yeah, they
I mean,
do.
it's the reality. So.
Yeah.
So I'd like to put on the record, I want to thank all the members that were on the charter review. It was a lengthy process, but, we all worked well together on that. And I thank you all for considering these changes as well. And before I leave, I would just like to put one thing on the record, and that is that I have never texted or messaged any commissioner, and specifically Commissioner Howell or Commissioner Grunder, during a commission meeting. That's something that's been put out there, and I resent that was put out there, but I have never done that. But thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you.
All right, citizen requests and comments for issues not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. And then after all the citizen comments, the commission will respond afterwards. Thank you.
David Lynch. I beg the city manager and the commissioners not to sell the Scout Hut. This is something of tremendous historical significance. I beg the city manager and the commissioners not to pave over our concrete streets. This is something of tremendous historical significance. High Springs Brewing. High Springs Brewing is using the High Springs name to promote a product that kills 7,000 people each day.
Any other citizen comments? All right, thank you. New business item number 1, discuss, consider, and act on resolution 2026-D. G.
Mr. Mayor, if it's all right with you, I'm going to read it by title. I think Mr. New has a presentation for you all, but I just don't want us to forget to read the resolution by title. Mr. Mayor, this is Resolution 2026-G, a resolution of the City of High Springs, Florida, relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
And go. Thank you all. My name is Mike New. I'm a client manager with Woodard & Kern, one of the engineering firms that you guys have under contract to help you with your water, wastewater, stormwater infrastructure needs. And thank you again for approving that contract. We managed to get all the signatures. I think documentation was finally returned today. So we appreciate that and the opportunity to work with you to make High Springs better. So at our last meeting, I kind of foreshadowed to you that that we had some exciting news. I think you're all aware of the exciting news, but goes back to last April when we started in April. We submitted an application in June, applying for some federal funding to help out with infrastructure needs, and you've been successful in that. I'm going to give you some background and some detail. I'm in charge of the clicker here. So recommended action, what we're seeking tonight and is that you receive this report that I'm about to give and that you adopt Resolution 2026G, authorizing participation in the state of Florida's State Revolving Fund Program. Also that you authorize the same motion, authorize the city manager to execute SRS loan applications necessary to engage in the program, and to authorize the city attorney's office to transmit a letter to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, who oversee this program. It's a form letter that they produce that's customized for your city, but essentially gives assurances that if there is a debt component when this project were to move forward, if there becomes a debt component, that High Springs would make a debt service payment. And I think that High Springs, like most communities, if you obligate yourself to a debt service payment, I think you make them. So those are the 3 items that are needed to get us out of the gate on this program. If this is something that the City Commission wishes to pursue, we'll be up here a lot. We'll be up here next month, and you'll say, Mike, didn't we just do that? And well, it's a step in a very complex process. But so you'll be seeing a lot of me if we move forward on this. But this is a very critical first step. And one of the things that we tell all of our community partners, that these grant awards are outstanding opportunities. And when they run through the SRF program, it's always a 3-step program: a planning phase, a design phase, and a construction phase. And oftentimes communities, especially smaller communities, the day they say we want to pursue it, they don't have it figured out exactly how they'll pay for everything. And we're aware of that. Usually that's one of the first things we do is we put a lot of effort into building a fiscal plan for how will we pay for these things, and we'll go beat the bushes and find all the funding sources that we can. So I just want to give you assurances that within this program, if High Springs decides they want to pursue it, there are many opportunities for off-ramps where you can say, all right, we've gone as far as we can with the funding that's available, but we're not willing to take on this next step unless we secure more funding. And an example is that we're working with the town of Micanopy. We're working on some water system improvements, so we're upgrading their water plant and their distribution system. And they have enough funding to get through the planning phase. That's complete. They have enough funding to do the design phase, and it's a two-part program. They have enough funding to do construction of the water plant. They don't have enough funding to do construction on the wastewater plant. But they know that design, once it's completed, they could be bid tomorrow or it could be bid 5 years from now. So their challenge to us is, we can afford the water plant, we can't afford the distribution system improvements. Help us find the funding for the rest of it. If we don't find the funding, we're going to keep those plans on a shelf until we do find the funding. And that is not unheard of. Just another example of how this works. About 7 years ago, the city of Newberry embarked on, we have to expand a wastewater plant. And so they started going through these processes, looking for funding, going through the planning phase. And during the planning phase, the 1.2 million gallon per day treatment plant that they built was going to be a little over $20 million. And so we were looking for $20 million. And then COVID happened, and price escalation happened, and design happened, and we had to do advanced nutrient removal, advanced treatment. And next thing you know, our $20 million treatment plant is an $80 million treatment plant. And Newberry does not have the resources to construct an $80 million treatment plant. But Newberry continued to look as you go through the planning process, as you go through the design phase, getting ready to go to construction, and they have secured all of the funding through, understand from their finance director, they have 32 different funding sources, components to get to that. And the whole way through, the funding agency, the bank, state of Florida, is sending a very consistent message to them is that any piece of that treatment plant that is growth, is to accommodate growth, your ratepayers can't pay a penny of it. We're not going to let your ratepayers pay it. And I think that's a great assurance. Now, if you're improving the quality of treatment for your existing ratepayers, then it is fair for a ratepayer to pay it. But it is not fair for a ratepayer to add capacity to a treatment plant so a developer can come in and build new homes. So the program that you're in is built that way, and it's been refined. I've been working in that program for about 30 years. 30 years ago, it was a little looser. Things worked a little more streamlined, but today it feels pretty challenging to get through that. And but that is because the governor, the legislative staff, they are very committed to making sure that new growth, new development in the state of Florida, in every community, pays for itself, and it doesn't go on the backs of existing residents. So I'll move into a little bit of background. In 2024, we experienced in Florida a couple of storm events, one Hurricane Milton, one Hurricane Helene, and they did some pretty significant damage, if you'll recall. I think this part of Florida, we mostly escaped the really, really bad stuff. We probably had some power outages and some good rain, but we didn't get walloped like some of the communities, and communities a little bit to the north and the west of us really got hit hard. But the federal government took a little bit different route. If you remember, usually in response to storms, you're dealing with FEMA, and FEMA is notoriously challenging to deal with. The audits come years later. The rules change when the auditors get there from when you started the program. And government has always taken advantage of the FEMA opportunity, but it has been challenging. And I've seen more than one government say, we're not even going to fool with it. We'll pay our own way because FEMA is too challenging. Well, Congress knows how challenging FEMA can be, those processes. And I guess, and so they routed funding for hurricane relief this time through US EPA with a different set of rules. One of the rules with FEMA is you can't upgrade your facilities. You can restore them to the way they were before the storm, but you can't upgrade them unless you do that on your own nickel. And well, that sounds good. I mean, I get it in concept, but what we learned is that, well, the reason those facilities were negatively impacted during a storm is because they were substandard. And if we are only getting funding to put a substandard infrastructure back to substandard, well, it's going to happen again. And this time around, through EPA, the rule is whatever happened that caused it to happen the last time, whatever was deficient, that better get fixed. If we're spending a penny on this thing, you better fix the deficiencies. Breath of fresh air to approaches on how we could do that. So those were kind of a different set of rules as this funding came down through US EPA instead of through FEMA. All of this funding is from EPA, but it's going to route through the state, through their SRF program, and you guys have participated in that. The wastewater plant that you're finishing up now is in the SRF program. So the cast of characters that we got applications approved with remains the same, and generally the rules of engagement remain the same. So in June, your city team and Woodard and Kern submitted 3 applications, one for your water system, one for your wastewater system, and one for your stormwater system. There was $3 billion allocated for the state. No, there was $3 billion allocated for this program. 1.6 of that, about a little over 50%, is coming to the state of Florida. Very good program for restoring infrastructure impacted by the storm events. So in November, FDEP noticed us that one of our 3 applications was approved for funding, and it was approved at a funding level of $19 million and some change. So that's a little bit about the funding opportunity there that shows how much was allocated to Florida and the total allocation being $3 billion. And I will tell you that working in small government, I say often that, well, we talk about $1 million budgets, a couple $1 million in budgets, and sometimes it feels like monopoly money because when we deal with our own personal finances, most of us aren't dealing with millions. When they add 3 zeros and they turn this into billions, it really is hard to wrap your head around that type of funding. The project that we turned in for water involved 3 components. It was development of a new well field. It's a new well field for you. It is property that the Water Management District purchased right around 376 acres in your city limits east of downtown. And they designated it for a High Springs and City of Alachua water facility. But here we are 25 years later, no development has occurred out there. But High Springs' wells have experienced contamination from these types of storm events. We get enough rain coming down, and you end up seeing tannins and things that are natural in our area, organic material showing up in your wells. And with an opportunity to construct new wells, we think we could probably design in factors to eliminate that, where your wells aren't contaminated by cross-contamination. So that was one. New wells in a water plant was one component of the project. Another component of the project was installation, and I said 25,000 in that slide. I've since amended it because I did a math lesson and I realized I'd left 5,000 feet out of that. So it's going to get about 30,000 feet of 12-inch water main. That will do a couple of things. It's going to connect the new water treatment plant to your existing system down Highway 441, but it'll also add a second route into town so that you don't have a single point of failure. Today, if the water main between your water plant and downtown were compromised, the town would just be dry except for what you have in your storage tank. So if you build that second redundant pipeline, you can shut down one and repair it and continue water service into your town. So we've added in some redundancy and some reliability, and then just generally building 12-inch water main around the outside perimeter of your existing water service area should help with any of your fire hydrants in town that have low flow conditions. If you look at a fire hydrant, it's got a red top or an orange top. It's not flowing at the rate that your fire chief would like it to flow. And we want to get them to green tops and blue tops. And this looping that was proposed with this project will allow that to happen. And then the final element of the project is the construction of 500,000 gallons worth of water storage tank. Try to get it located opposite in geography from your existing water tank and from your water plant. Again, that's a redundancy thing, right? Today, if that tank of yours needs to be painted, and they have to be painted every 10 years, it needs to be pressure washed, cleaned out. You have to do that every other year, I believe. You don't have the single most critical component in your town for maintaining water pressure, and it puts your water treatment plant in quite a stressful situation to operate a water system without storage. So having a redundant water tank gives you additional reliability, and this program that is being funded is all about redundancy, reliability, to ensure that, again, these types of problems that have arisen in the past don't continue to arise. Next slide. No, that's a pointer. Oh, okay. So that going the wrong way. Definitely going the wrong way. And I just keep backing up. There we are. I'm sorry. So terms of the loan and the project was turned in, submitted as a $19 million project, 19 million and change, and that was taking advantage of the rules of the game. We knew that, and it was advertised, the maximum award for these programs was 20 million, and so we took a lot of projects that would total somewhere around 20 million and made sure that if the money was going to come to High Springs, that we were going to get the maximum benefit that we could. So they offered you, for a $19 million project, what they call 50% principal forgiveness. Principal forgiveness is a fancy term for grant. So they're giving you right off the top 50% grant. So you've got about 9.5 million in grant, and the other 50% they're offering at a 0% interest loan with a 20-year term. So that's that equates, if I had remembered to give the updated, no, it's my fault. I didn't send you the right slide deck. If I had bothered, that equates to, if we didn't get another funding tool in here, and remember in Newberry, at the end of this thing, we have 30 different funding sources. I don't think we'll have 30 on this because this isn't an $80 million project, but I'd be surprised if we were less than 8 or 10 additional funding sources if you decide to move forward on this. So once you bring those other funding sources in, the amount of loan that you end up having to take on with your ratepayers or your new growth, depending on whether we consider this new capacity or not, just comes down from that. But as a worst case scenario, still not in there. Worst case scenario, if we funded the whole balance through this 0% loan interest program, it would be $477,000 a year is the debt service on this for a 20-year payment. Or with, I did the math at 3,000 customer households, $11 a month. That's too much, in my opinion, to be for this benefit. And this essentially is a 40-year boost to your system. If you do this work right now, there's not going to be a lot of additional work needed to do other than some in-between little maintenance here and there. This is going to really set High Springs on a path to a strong water system for the next 25 to 40 years. So that's kind of the terms of the agreement. And there's a really nifty slide in here that I'll send you as a PDF. It essentially reiterates that the SRF program is a 3-stage process, and you'll hear this over and over again. You'll be able to recite it in the next 5 years. You'll hear this so often. The state requires everyone that goes through their program to write a planning document first. And a planning document simply requires the community to evaluate all the alternatives. The state wants to fund the lowest cost alternative that it solves the problem. So, and they will allow communities to build something different. If you don't like the low cost alternatives, like 20 years ago, the low cost alternative for High Springs and wastewater was put in a grinder pump system. And that's what was funded. But High Springs could have said, we don't want a grinder pump system, we want a gravity system. And SRF would have said, that's fine, but we'll loan you the money, but we won't give you grants towards that. We only give grants to the low cost option because that's how government does what it does. So those are the types of things that come out of a planning study. We call them facilities plan, but it's really a planning study. We're required to look at 3 alternatives, and we're required to put cost estimates on it, and it's not just the cost to build the thing. We also require to put in life cycle costs, so they want to know the total cost of the life of the asset to make sure that your ratepayers are getting the best deal that they can get. So a planning phase takes about a year. And during that planning phase, while a planning document is being created, we're looking for more funding for this facility, this program, if you want to move forward. Then once the planning document is complete, comes back to this commission, you give it a thumbs up eventually. May not give it the first time, but hopefully you do. You give it a thumbs up, we transmit it to the state, and they review it. And if it's acceptable, they say you are allowed to move on to the next phase, which is the design phase. And they'll approve you for funding. You step into the design phase, and you design what was approved in the facilities plan. So you'll hire an engineering firm. They'll complete that design, and that's about another year. So now you're 2 years into the process, and you haven't broke ground yet, but you have found out what the low-cost alternative is, and you've got a really good design for it. And at the end of the design, same thing. Comes back to the commission. You guys evaluate it and approve it or not. If you approve it, it goes to the state of Florida, and they have to approve it. And when they approve it, then they will authorize you to proceed with construction funding and advertise it and bid it. And I tell you that in a level of detail is you should expect that if you want to move forward on this, it's 2 years minimum to get to construction. It's probably going to get you a little bit closer to 3 years because the state does things quarterly. So if we get a planning document sent into them the week after their last quarterly meeting, then it just sits on someone's desk for 3 more months until the next quarterly meeting. So we're trying to hit all those milestones, but it is pretty typical for about a year of planning, a year of design, and then construction can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years, just depending on the magnitude of the project. I would say this project would bid as 3 different projects. You'd bid the water plant to someone, the wells and the water plant to someone. Someone would do the water distribution piping, and a third contract would do the elevated storage tank. And that's comfortable to do in a year, 18 months. So the whole program, if you decide to undertake it, you're talking 3.5, 4 years to complete. Final, and again, there are off-ramps at every one of those stages. And the most common off-ramps that I see and that we see as a firm, let's get the planning document done because we can't go anywhere without a planning document. Let's get the design done because those costs are relative to the entire cost. A planning document is 2% of your construction cost. A design, and that's a round number, a design is 10% of your construction cost. So a community has a lot of value by the time they get to the end of the design, but they haven't made a big investment yet. Construction is your big investment, and that's when we have to get the funding in place to ensure that we can afford it and that it's best for your community. So final slide is this one, and we just kind of back to, in order to proceed, FDEP, when you're using them as the bank, they require you to, tonight, execute an SRF loan agreement, and that should be in your package. The city attorney has reviewed it and city manager has reviewed it, to adopt a resolution, and that is for sure in your packet. That's 2026G, and authorize the city attorney to transmit a letter saying that you guys will make any debt service payment that comes from it. Again, you cannot get into debt service payments without it being approved by this board. You will know that by this authorization, you're incurring costs. The authorization you're giving us tonight, High Springs incurs no cost. We will be back. If you approve it tonight, you'll see me again in 4 weeks. There's another set of documents that are coming from DEP that kick this whole thing off. This says we want to be in the program. The next one says you're going to do a planning document. And at that point, you can solicit for engineering services, or at least the planning document you can do under your engineering contract where you have us and 2 other firms. You can start the process. And I should have already mentioned that, though. A project of this magnitude, the federal government who's lending the money or giving the money to the state, and the state SRF program will not allow you to award to any of your contractors engineering firms that are under contract right now. The size of this means you'll have to do a project-specific solicitation. We recommend that you do that. You can start on the planning phase with an existing contractor, but you can't start on the design until you do a solicitation. So we're going to recommend that you do the solicitation for design services and construction services sometime during the next year in the planning phase. And that's a lot of words, but I'm available for questions.
Commissioner White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At what point in this process, Mr. New, are we committing a debt burden? Right from the jump? Yes?
When the planning document, yes, the planning document is not a 100% grant. It is a 50% grant. So I said that a planning document was up to 2%. It's probably $400,000 to create a planning document. And actually, I know for a fact that High Springs has considered a planning document in 2022. It was presented to the commission, was never adopted. It kind of was put on hold and then didn't move forward. So we've evaluated that planning document, and we think that our approach would be to update that for something less than the whole planning document. But the dollar value of that traditionally would be between $200,000 and $400,000, and it would convert to a loan. 50% of that converts to a loan for the city.
Right
if you
from the
choose
start.
it, right from the get-go.
Okay. So the proposed site, the 378 acres, I know where you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
When that piece of property was purchased by the Water Management District, I assume they did an environmental site assessment.
Yes, ma'am.
Did they do any ground penetrating radar?
I do not know.
I mean, in terms of the real functionality of that site being a good well field, do we know that it, because we just put in a third well.
Yes, ma'am.
Not more than a year or two ago. If we migrated over to a different well field, are we going to abandon all three of those wells?
I would never recommend that. I'm a former utility director. Every asset that you can have in your utility system that is still functional, I keep.
So then why the recommendation that we build a whole nother plant if we couldn't use what we already have?
You can. I think when I say that I would recommend maintaining the old asset, it'd mostly be for reliability and backup. But nothing that we can do to them right now will prevent them from cross contamination from superficial water, from rainwater. And I believe that constructing a new, or probably 2 new wells on this new site, that we would design that from the get-go to minimize the chance. There's no way to guarantee that you can't have that contamination, especially this close to the Santa Fe River. We have, you've all heard karst topography many, many times, and you're not going to change that, that you have karst topography. But not every well that has been inserted in this part of Florida and constructed in this part of Florida has that contamination. And so I think you have 2 very old wells in town, and I don't think that at the time that the contractor that was constructing those wells or the engineers that designed the well construction techniques, I don't think that cross-contamination was on their radar. I think that if High Springs constructs new wells, it will be. So that's why there's no guarantees in the well drilling business unless, if we go east of Gainesville, where we have a confining clay layer and it's 15 feet thick, then I can tell you, we're going to go right through that clay layer and you're not going to have that type of contamination. But if you get west of Gainesville from the Georgia line down to Orlando, all those communities are dealing with those exact same challenges.
Well, they had issues when they were installing the third well. They had to move the location because it kept caving in. They couldn't drill it. So now they've put the third well in a place that prohibits us from doing more development for ball fields there. And Homeland Security isn't real thrilled with where our water wells are anyway.
100%.
So in terms of ground penetrating radar, we don't really know how well that new proposed well field would take a new well.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you proposing similar depths, similar well construction to the third well that we have in now for a new well field?
That is beyond the scope of what I know. I
Okay.
think that if we get into a design process, Those are conversations we have with well drillers. I'll give you an example. In Fort White, they have some wells that have the same types of issues, and we contacted a well contractor who had some techniques where he thought he could get beyond that, and he came in and he excavated, or he drilled another 35 feet. But when he used that technique, and that's available to High Springs, when you use that technique, you take an 8-inch well pipe and it gets converted to a 6-inch well pipe, because you lose that. So there's a disadvantage to trying to go deeper with an existing well casing, and that's certainly a possibility. But I would say normally in our part of Florida, we are talking about wells that range from 100 feet deep to 180 feet deep. And a well driller may say, look, the best way to get beyond this, the cross-contamination and the color issues, is to go down 350 feet. So much more expensive, different set of challenges that water's coming from that depth, but maybe more addressable through treatment than color. Color is, and because you end up with color converts into things called disinfection byproducts that
We've
lead
had
to
issues with that
carcinogens.
before.
But another thing that we're doing successfully around the state of Florida, and I ask communities to not panic because we have color in the water or disinfection byproducts. The treatment technology that's available for us to remove color, it's not inexpensive, but it's not cost prohibitive these days. It has been cost prohibitive in the past, but usually granular activated carbon is a good treatment system for something like that. And these days there's catalogs that you can buy those types of units and you can get them installed.
Have you been able to see an existing pipe map for our water distribution system? Because you're talking about closing, having an opening the whole system. There are a number of different places that I know of in High Springs that have closed, they're closed off in neighborhoods. So are we talking about just the overall distribution, or are we going into the micro level so that we're opening it up everywhere?
No, ma'am. What's proposed in your project application is larger diameter pipes connecting to your
12-inch.
existing piping network at strategic locations. If Jeremy and the utility director determined that, hey, we've got a dead end pipe at the end of this subdivision and we have water stagnant problems and we need to connect it to the next subdivision over, that's not in the scope of work. That's going to fit into your CIP, where you say, we've got enough budget, $40,000 or $50,000 a year, and we want to eliminate these types of dead end pipes.
Okay. So if we signed all these documents tonight and we committed to the program, we as a city are on the hook for $39,583 per month additional to our net for 20 years, to
No,
our
ma'am.
nut.
No, ma'am. I'm
So
sorry.
then what does that commit?
Your commitment right now is get us in the program. You don't borrow money until an engineering firm provides you with a proposal to write a planning study. The first thing you're going to do is a planning study. So getting in the program doesn't spend any money. If you approve a proposal to move forward on a planning study, then you're agreeing that you'll pay 50% of the planning study, unless you've gotten another grant between now and then. I don't think that would happen. But so it's as incremental. So it'd be 2% of the project cost, probably 3 months from now, that you'd be committing to $300,000 or $400,000 interest-free 20-year loan. If it converts into, it would convert into a 20-year loan. But that planning document is a 20-year document, so you won't ever have to repeat it. Once you get that planning document, you can move forward through the SR program with any of your water system projects.
I understand what you're saying. We're broke, and that's a big problem that I'm having with all of this. I can tell you that improved infrastructure, improved water quality, and wastewater issues was the whole reason I got here, and I have failed miserably at making any kind of impact there. This would be a huge help, but we are broke, unfortunately. So in terms of committing to any kind of debt, whether it's interest-free or not, we still have 20 years that we have to pay off our original wastewater treatment plant. That was a 40-year note. We have $14 million of debt right now. And going the entire way with this, we'd incur another $9.5 million. Interest-free, I get that, but then that's great. But we don't have money. And who
recall,
would manage this project? We don't have a finance director, we don't have a public works director. Who would manage this project for the city?
well, typically, a representative from an engineering firm would be managing it from that perspective. And you know, we were working with the town of the city of Archer today, and that very question came up, and whether Archer is building a wastewater collection system and they're going to connect to Newberry, and we're not doing the design work on it. Another firm is doing the design work on it, but we are managing all of their funding for them, and there's no purchase order associated with that. When we help you get funding, we're a funding partner, and we hang in there. We make sure all the forms get signed, get submitted, all the quarterly reports get signed, get submitted. I see probably 5 emails a day from just Alachua County clients making sure that we stay in compliance with all of their funding agreements. And so you're going to get that level of resource from us. I also presume that before we go into construction on this, if you move ahead on this, that not having a finance director or a utility director, I think that is a temporary issue. This is a 3.5, 4 year
Agreed.
program. We'll get the right people in place, and so
Well, the city of Newberry just hired one of our top candidates for public works director, though, so
dirty rats
They got a
over
good
at
one.
Newberry. They're not to be
they
trusted.
got a good one.
Not to be trusted down south.
I don't want you to take away from this at all that I don't support the idea of this project at all. Where you reach a hard brick wall is incurring any kind of debt. We are struggling right now as a city, so, you know, if we can get into the program without incurring any debt, great.
And just to offer a little bit more, because for the past 3 or 4 months, I've been meeting with Jeremy and we've been having conversations. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's figured out, but I am pretty familiar with your water and wastewater budgets now, and your rates are kind of middle of the road. But you know, last October, your commission reduced your impact fees for wastewater from $2,500 a month to $250 a month. That's as reported to me that this commission did that, and that those impact fees are how you make debt service payments moving forward. So the first thing, part of building a fiscal solution, looking at your impact fees and getting them where they need to be. And most recently, we developed impact fees in Newberry, and those were $10,500 per
aware.
connection. And as I understand correctly, I didn't validate that. I just read the news report. You know, the difference between $10,500 and $250 per connection, pretty significant. So, and I think that work needs to happen whether you move on this project or not. I've looked at your rates. The one thing I do notice is that your transfer out of your utility funds to general fund is pretty steep. It's more extensive than I see in most other utilities. And I would say first 2 things that I see are get impact fees where they need to be so that new growth is paying its own way, and start working to reduce your transfer so that you can grab a hold of your rates and have enough funding to go for O&M of your facilities and maintaining your existing facilities.
I sure don't recall dropping impact
No,
fees.
we
Yeah.
talked about it and I nixed it because we didn't have an impact fee study. You can't change your impact fees without an impact fee.
We
study.
changed our impact fees a couple years ago,
When you had the study, you had a study done.
so we'd have to have another study done?
Every time you change your impact fees, you have to have a study done, and they're
Can't
very
afford the study.
They're very expensive, which is why when we were talking at budget time about changing the impact fees, I said we couldn't do it.
Okay.
So the impact fee,
So
it was a discussion though to Mr. News credit.
And the news article I read,
Yeah.
it wasn't
So our current
contemplated.
wastewater impact fee is $2,500, not $250.
I can't quote exactly what
Okay,
it is,
okay.
but
Well,
I feel like I remember there being a typo in the presentation at the time.
Oh.
And
And I think it was orally corrected, but if you were just looking at the materials for the meeting, it would look like we had cut impact fees. So that may be where the article got the information from. I
We
don't know.
raised them, we raised a lot of them quite a bit. 'cause
You had
we were-
a study done. I remember when it happened.
Florida Rural Water performed the study. and with an engineering firm called Salter Engineering. It was in 2022. And they made recommendations, but their account was those recommendations didn't get adopted. Now, I'm now scared to report anything because I'm wrong.
Could we change our impact fees based on that study?
It's not gonna be, I think they're only good for 6 months or something like that. I'd have to look at the statute. The statute says how long they're good for.
That's convenient.
But
Okay.
typically, that type of analysis happens during the planning phase. You're working on that, and the state legislature did change the rules for impact fees. They do require a pretty extensive study. Up till 8 years ago, utility directors performed that analysis pretty routinely and updated them every year during the budget process.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. New, so if we adopt this tonight, we take on that first cost.
Yep.
Say we can't, whatever, we get past the planning, we go into design, and we can't find funding or do anything else, we can shelf it at that point?
Absolutely.
But that sticks around, there's no time frame on that. If we find our funding, you guys find us funding, we submit for design, it's, $5 million, they cover half, and you find funding for the other half, and we don't owe anything? Is that how that?
If we find, and that 50% debt service is always what's left over after grants. So normally, and I started out thinking that on a $20 million project, they were given 50% debt forgiveness, and so that was $10 million. So I had to go find $10 million, and when we found $5 million, I thought, well, we're halfway there. But as it turns out, they don't start doing the math on the 50% until they compile everything. So the only way to get out of this debt free is to find another $10 million in grants. But if you're expanding capacity, I keep referring to Newberry's wastewater plant. Newberry has developers that agreed to pay the capacity fees whether they built the house or not. And they got that letter from 6 or 7 developers and it totals, they're going to get more than 200 capacity fees paid every year, whether anyone pulls a building permit or not. And that was the only way. Newberry's project sat on the shelf for a year waiting on those letters. And DEP, the lender, shut it down and said, well, you got a great design and you can go to bid one day, but until we have assurances that your added capacity is going to be paid for despite the economy, we don't care if the economy takes a downturn and you never build another house, we're getting paid back. And those letters came in, and then and only then, Newberry was allowed to move forward. And that really was a year-long process to get those letters.
So I know we're saying we can put it on the shelf, but putting it on the shelf don't mean that you're not gonna pay the $9 million. It just means that it's on the shelf and you're gonna have to pay it eventually. So like you said, if the economy just goes crazy and then there's no grant funding available, that $9 million is gonna have to be paid eventually. So that was all I was hearing while we were in presentation, how much money. So $15 million is what we got now in debt services. 23 would be what we have after this. You just said $477 a year.
Yes, sir.
If we take out the $9 million before.
And then if we don't have that much, we're going to have to charge every citizen $11 more a month to be able to make up for that $477. And they already mad with us. So that ain't ideal. And then we're talking about a 6-year project. That's
Probably closer to 4.5, but yes, sir.
well, you said a year planning, a year designing, and 3 years of project.
And that's
5.
traditional.
But I know
Well,
5 means 6.
That's
so
traditional. Typically, they go from 1 to 3 years. And $80 million wastewater plant is a 3-year construction program. But a new water plant, well filled, and water piping, that's probably closer to a year and a half, to be honest.
Yeah, I just, that's my only concern as well, is that
Well,
That
Mr.
line
Mayor,
gonna have to be paid.
we could ask, would Woodward and Curran be willing to sign a bond covering that $9.5 million? And then go out and get the more grant money? Because, I mean, we don't have the money.
Well-
I love the project, I love the idea, but to Mr. Mayor's point, we raised wastewater base rates a bunch this year, and we're still really not covering our costs. We can't keep squeezing the residents. We couldn't, I couldn't possibly pass another $11 a month on to every resident.
But you
Now,
know,
we-
he brought up some good things last time he spoke. We're way below on impact fees. And as he pointed out, Newberry had to raise theirs. Well, I don't know how much it would cost to do the study.
About
20 grand?
20-ish.
But we need that study done, and we need to get these impact fees raised as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Do we have the funds for that is another question. Because, like you say, we can't put it on the burden of people here now.
Right.
But the folks that want to come here, they're going to have to pay to come into town.
Well,
And
that's the other, and I agree with you. That's one of the things we talked about before, is our wastewater is covering itself. The problem is what wastewater is putting in the general fund to cover everything else.
Yes.
So that's the problem.
I mean, I would soon vote on raise the impact fees tonight. I wish I could do that, because it needs to happen to be able to fund these projects.
Right.
But I agree with some of y'all already. We can't afford this. I want to see this because, and I wanted to ask you some questions about the map, if you can pull the map up there.
Absolutely.
Just while we're in this now. So with the well field,
Yes.
that's off 188th and 190th Avenue.
Right behind the dump.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's where it's at.
Yep,
That used to be Mr. Bobby Summers' property.
yes, sir.
And we're talking about well contamination. I'm already concerned with the deal in Alachua coming right to the north of that property line, going right to Camp Coakla. We're already talking about contaminants. That's from, what's that?
Mill Creek.
From Mill Creek Sink,
Yeah.
yep.
Those projects have been stalled at this
For
point.
now.
Stalled but not stopped.
So
Yeah.
we know that. The red lines are assuming is where the 12-inch mains are gonna go, right?
That's, I mean, that's an
Proposal.
estimate.
Yeah.
That's a rough sketch to put in on a grant application. but
Right,
I
right.
think those are fair.
So my next question would be where the main is, are we going to be forcing people on that to be connecting to that? Or is that just for a 12-inch water main, no tapping into that?
You could,
But we're not
You
going to
could-
force these residents to get on that because that's no city water or utilities out there right now.
that depends on the city commission's ordinances.
We got an ordinance that they're
and-
gonna have
and-
to be
and-
connected.
And what you want to do. But, I would say that, well, one, I know y'all have had a long discussion about force mains running down County Road 236 and whether we would require people to connect to that. I will tell you that it is my personal opinion that a force main does not give you access to a wastewater system unless you're willing to build a multi-$100,000 lift station to pump it into that force main. It's under pressure and wastewater's coming out of their house under gravity. You can have a force main in your front yard and you can't connect to it. So I think that your ordinances just need to be clarified to say that our mandatory connection requirements apply to gravity systems, not force mains. I
But we're
think
talking water, drinking water here at this
Well-
point, right?
you can distinguish between, with your connection policies, you can distinguish between transmission mains, which are large diameter, and distribution mains, which are smaller, or you can establish a utility service zone, put an inner perimeter of what you consider to be your more urbanized downtown area. The city can adopt an urban services area, and your mandatory connection policy can be within the urban services area. There's mandatory connection, and outside of it, we consider you rural, and you can stick to your wells and septic tanks.
Gotcha. Now going to this, I guess the estimator where the 500,000 gallon tank is proposed to be out there by Winn-Dixie. Are we connecting to a existing from, say, where the line is proposed to go there on 236? That's going to feed back to that tank, or are we going to run a line to that tank?
That's a design question. We're going to look. I assume you have existing infrastructure out there, and I assumed it's of adequate size. When I made that sketch, I assumed it was of adequate size to
gotcha.
connect an elevated storage tank to. But if if we pull out your drawings and you have the biggest pipeline you have out there is 4 inch, then, well, we're gonna have to build a little more water main. 'Cause
Well, I was
you'd wanna
wondering, we
connect it-
cannot put that tank on this well field out here? It's not the
it's not-
typical?
It is absolutely possible, and that's the way it happened for years. I mean, I think your initial wells in town were probably right underneath that tank, where your water plant is. That's the way it was done. But your well pumps are a source of pressure, and that tank is a source of pressure. So best engineering practice are, get your tank opposite side of your city from your well field, and you will have much better pressure distribution if you do it that way.
Makes
But
sense.
the majority of water plants in Florida, when I see an elevated tank, I know there's a well around here somewhere. And so we are working to minimize that where we can, because it's just so much better for your system. There's no rule prohibiting it, though. There's no rule requiring it to be anything. If we're starting from scratch and you're saying, Mr. Utility Director, how would you do it if this were your city? I'd say well field on the east side of town, an elevated storage tank in the northwest quadrant, because you already have one in the south quadrant.
Because it's going to be pushing the water from both directions at
Correct.
that point.
Yes, sir.
That makes great sense. I'm just worried about impacting our citizens even more.
Yeah.
I wish we could get these impact fees up and start helping with this infrastructure that we already have. I like this. It also provides, I'm hoping it would provide, well, it doesn't show a line, but at least we would have access to get infrastructure on 441 out there that we don't have.
Could this at any point, if we were to move forward this at any point, could we get rid of the grinder pumps on the south side of town? Would that?
This project won't have anything to do that. There may be an opportunity to do that, or there may be a solution towards that. I think about grinder pumps. Port St. Lucie, Florida, a town of 700,000 people, just signed a contract to put in 85,000 of the exact same grinder pumps that you use. And, as I'm having that conversation with their sales rep, I'm thinking, if they're willing to do that, and they already have plenty of them, but 85,000 new grinder pumps, I thought there's got to be a way to make this doable, because Port St. Lucie is a really well-respected community that seems to know what they're doing in the utility business. So there's a way to do it, but I would tell you, changing out a grinder pump system to a gravity system, it will require you to dig up every street in that neighborhood, and that becomes cost prohibitive. But all of your new development is on gravity. So it's really your downtown area that has that issue. All your new development, the new subdivisions that go in, they put in a gravity system, they connect it to the closest lift station, and that one will give you that maintenance-free long life that you really desire, that your operators really desire. And I would just mention one other thing about well fields. I say this often. Alachua County has a well field protection ordinance that protects well fields in Alachua County. Well, actually, I misspoke. It protects a well field in Alachua County. It protects Gainesville's well field. It doesn't protect any other well field in this city. And sometimes that frustrates me when I'm sitting in the audience and the county is speaking to small cities about what they should and shouldn't do. And it's like, well, your well field protection ordinances don't even address us. So it is incumbent upon cities to protect their own well field, and the Water Management District does a great job. They will require you to establish a well field protection ordinance. I would imagine you already have one. But your existing well field is on US 441, and it is, I wouldn't say surrounded, densely surrounded, but the development adjacent to it is industrial. And it's a concrete batch plant. I don't think that's necessarily a terrible neighbor, but it's zoned industrial, so you'd have little power to prevent something that could be nasty to a well field. Developing a new well field gives you a chance to control development around it and ensure that that well field is protected moving into the future. Right now, we're a small town of 7,500 people, but At the end of the life of this water treatment plant, you'll be a much bigger town, 20, 25,000 people, and you'll want to have assurances that you're not getting the wrong types of development out next to a well field that you want to protect because it's providing the quality of life for your residents.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a question. Mr. New, could you clarify for me, you talked about the developers in Newberry honoring a capacity fee. Is that the same as an impact fee that you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
So I thought, my understanding was that legally, we could not take impact fees prior to any,
You cannot
Permits.
require the payment. If it is a voluntary, they want to pay it. That's different. The problem was with, I think it was Bridalwood,
yes.
was we wanted to require
Right,
Bridalwood
right.
to prepay impact fees,
Gotcha.
and that you cannot do.
so these developers in Newberry voluntarily said, well, we're going to cut you a check for $2 million here to cover this
Every year.
development.
Yes, ma'am. But the leverage was, we don't have capacity, Newberry doesn't have capacity at its wastewater plant for the development that you want to put in.
I think we have that same argument.
Mm.
I mean,
So how would this impact our consumptive use permit if we had a total of 5 active wells instead of 3? I mean, I don't see the district really making big changes to our cup.
Well, I mean, currently, they don't regulate the number of wells that you can have. They regulate the amount of water that you would withdraw daily. And the only way you up that capacity is you demonstrate that your per capita use is below a certain threshold. They want to make sure that you're conserving water to the extent that you have. So you may have, they want you to have water conservation rates, and you do. They'll want you to have reuse of your wastewater, and you're getting environmental recharge. There's a reuse credit in that because you're putting it back into
Because the
the
infiltrated
environment.
wetland?
Through a wetland treatment, that
Because we
qualifies.
don't have any purple pipe in the ground that I know
No.
of in High
Well,
Springs.
what you're doing qualifies, though,
Okay.
as beneficial reuse of wastewater. It's
Okay.
putting it back into the environment. So, I mean, I don't know your consumption patterns intensively, but, you know, the water management districts are really ratcheting down, but they don't regulate the number of wells that you have. They regulate the daily withdrawal.
I hear you guys about the cost, but Commissioner White, you nailed it. One of the things I wanted to do was plan for the future for the city, and I've been here 16 months now. I don't think we've done any of that. So it's frustrating because this is right in front of us, and I don't know.
Let me remind you that tonight you're not incurring any costs. You're not obligating to any debt. You're just saying we want to go into the program. You don't obligate yourself to anything tonight. In 4 weeks, he'll come back. 4 weeks, you said?
4 to
You'll
8.
come back, and that's when you'll start looking at what the cost will be. Tonight, it's just saying we want to participate in the program. You can get out of the program anytime you want.
With no cost.
No cost, right? Let me make sure I'm speaking
Correct.
right.
There's no cost.
Once you've
Until-
incurred a
once-
cost, it's a
correct.
different story, but tonight you're not
Tonight,
incurring a
you're
cost.
not.
Right now,
Correct.
we're entering a program and gives us other options.
Correct.
And then we can keep talking about other things.
It gives you access to that $19 million. It doesn't, you're not incurring any of that $19 million tonight.
But it also obligates the city to pay back $9.5 million if we execute the 3 different things we talked about
If
tonight.
we execute.
If you execute them.
We do have time to step out after he comes back, I'm assuming the 4 weeks or what have you. So we
mean,
need to make a decision at that point in time to go forward.
Yes, and it will be an incremental decision. It'll be, here's the cost to do the planning, and you would be required to pay 50% of it. And I'll make sure I have those facts right. I'm not on the fiscal solutions team, but I'll make sure I understand exactly. Every time you make a decision to take a step that will require you to pay money, I will have on a slide exact details of what you're committing to.
But tonight, so you're saying, because he asked the question, but you said it in a different way. So tonight, the next time we come back, if we say, okay, never mind, it's over with, we not paying the $9 million.
Correct.
Because you haven't received it. I hate to call it a line of credit because that implies that as you pay it back, it opens itself back up. But it's that same idea. Until you incur from that $19 million, you're not going to owe anything. It's not like they're going to stroke you guys a check tomorrow for $10 million and you've got to pay it back. It's as these pieces come in front of you, you have to evaluate the cost, and then you make a determination. I think, to Mr. New's point, if you get through the planning phase and you've incurred costs and you decide we're tapped out, no more, your planning documents are good for approximately 20 years from what he was saying. So tonight, though, all you're doing is entering into the program. You're not incurring any cost. You can, at the next time when Mr. New comes back and says, here's what it's going to cost, you all can say, nope, we're good. Thank you so much for your consideration and your help, and you've incurred no cost.
We should have opened with that, to be honest.
Look, I got no problem moving forward because it ain't costing us anything.
Right.
I agree. I would love to see.
That,
I would
he
love
can
to
come
see-
back with more data,
Yeah.
more information.
And more grant money would be really good. Just saying.
I mean, you could hit the lottery, Commissioner White.
I could, but I don't gamble.
The, there are 100 engineering firms in the state of Florida that do just what I do. But to my knowledge, there's only one that developed physical funding plans like Woodard and Curran does. And I'm a short timer with Woodard and Curran. I'm still kind of learning the ropes on the private sector. But I will tell you that in 20 years of service to the city of Alachua and to the city of Newberry, one of the things I learned is that I wasn't going to undertake any of these big infrastructure programs without, back then it wasn't Woodard and Curran, but it was the people that understand this fiscal solutions component. They worked with a different firm back then, but they kind of saved my skin. I was a utility director, and I almost lost $8.5 million in grant funding because I didn't understand grant requirements like I needed to, and they helped me right the ship. And then we went through several successful programs in Alachua. First call I made when I had an opportunity to work in Newberry was that firm, because Newberry said we have infrastructure issues and we need help. And I called them and got them engaged within the first 2 months, and they're still happily serving, doing a great job in Newberry, and now they're doing a great job in Micanopy, and now they're doing a great job in Archer. We're really strong at helping communities find how to pay for these things that seem out of reach.
I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with Resolution 2026-G.
I'll second that with the caveat that we incur zero debt by going through this process right now.
Absolutely.
If I'm clear, I will second that.
Well, if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that,
Okay.
yes.
And,
Thank you, sir.
and Mr. Mayor, could I ask, this is a three-part motion. The application is one, Okay, I haven't read the resolution. Perfect, never mind, scratch that.
Can you read all three, Danielle? Well, you've already read that, but I'm seeing
Yeah,
A,
the
to
three
authorize the
things.
city manager to execute the loan application. And that's what we're agreeing to tonight as well.
Authorizing the loan agreement, establishing
That's the providing for assurances part. C up here.
Correct.
Authorizing you to transmit a letter to DEP offering your legal opinion of the city's financial ability to pay debt services associated with funding.
If we take
We
funding-
don't have any funding.
So that's,
it would be from your rates, and it says, if you look, it's like the last page of your packet, there's a sample legal opinion. And it
I
says
just
that
looked at
there are
that.
4 other obligations that are already tied to those rates.
okay.
So we have to disclose to the program administrator that those rates are already pledged for 4 other things. So it's like a full transparency thing to the state of these rates are already pledged somewhere else. And then we're pledging, after these 4, then it would be this, if we were to pull from this, we would be pledging our rates subsequently.
And C, and I see what you're saying, the wording of it. C just means if we take on funding, then we're saying that we're gonna pay it back, but we're not taking any funding right now.
Correct.
Okay.
We're not, right. At the time that you take funding, we're making an assurance that we have the ability to pay it back. And we're disclosing to the state now what outstanding liens there are against our rates. So,
Did y'all see that page?
Yes, sir.
That's the 4 debts you're talking about
Yes,
that we
sir.
have right now.
correct.
That's the part where I get, we're saying we can pay back this debt.
If we
We
take
are
it,
committing to
If
the
we
state.
take the money.
if we take the money, yes.
But we're not taking the money right now. We're
Correct.
just waiting him to come back with more
Okay.
information.
To that point, 2 weeks ago, Archer agreed to the same letter, drafted by the same city attorney, and Archer has a 100% grant. They don't have a debt service, but they're still sending a letter that says if by some craziness there is a debt component, city attorney says we have the funding sources to pay that debt service. So it's
And they don't have any debt as a city?
they
On
don't
this
have any
funding.
debt on this. They got 100% funding for this program.
Okay. Can we get 100%?
I wish you could.
Why did Archer get it and we didn't? I mean, what,
They're-
not that they're not lovely people, but
They're-
what is the mechanism by
they're-
which that happened?
Their economic indicators are significantly different than High Springs's.
Yeah, they got some bad.
I know they've got some stuff going on, but we're broker than broke right now.
Well, I think it's more of a community, median income,
Okay,
those
okay.
types of things. They're not looking at your annual fiscal report, your audits. That's not it. They're looking at a community's ability to pay based upon the median income levels of the families that live
Gotcha.
in High Springs.
Okay.
Well,
Would it, and I know that you have a motion on the floor right now, so I may be asking Commissioner Whites to amend her motion to consider this. Would it satiate you all if we put a line in the resolution that this resolution does not authorize borrowing against the loan?
Yes,
Because we can just add that to the resolution. And
that would make me feel better.
as long as Mayor Miller doesn't mind swinging by tomorrow to sign it, or not tomorrow because nobody's here, Monday to sign it.
that's if I'm at the will of the commission.
I just think making that point,
Sure.
making sure that people know we are not obligating anybody in this city to any more debt.
Right.
Because they're drowning as it is.
So if you look at your resolution, section 2, the city of High Springs, Florida is authorized to apply for a loan to finance the project. I can add a sentence that says, but is not authorized to borrow against or pull on same until such time as further approval from the city commission.
And that doesn't mess up the process of,
You're not committing to anything more than you would have been committing to without it, and I don't think SRF is going to be upset that you're clarifying that we're not pulling on it tonight.
okay?
And I think that that'll provide the transparency that you all are looking for your constituents. Based upon what I'm hearing. If you don't want that, it was just a suggestion.
Any protection for us right now is,
So if you'll be
needed.
so kind as to amend your motion to approve Resolution 2026-G as amended orally.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2026-G as amended.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Citizen comments. All right, this is a roll call vote.
Mayor Miller,
No.
Vice Mayor Bloodsworth,
I'm gonna say yes.
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner Whites.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna impress you with our ability to plan fiscally and help you find the funding to give you more confidence as this moves forward. And I promise you that I get less wordy. The longer you know me, the less I'll talk. I feel like there's a big learning curve, but as we get through that learning curve together, it'll be very brief, a staff report type of thing, and then your level of comfort, the level of questions coming from you will be much less. Thank you all for the time that you've invested
Mr. Mayor,
tonight
may I
learning
address
more
Mr.
about
Newt
this.
For a second.
Yeah.
Mr. Newt, with y'all being, wastewater is y'all's wheelhouse. Is there any funding, any grants out there that y'all can explore on updating some of our existing lines to get our infrastructure updated? Is there anything available out there that y'all could work on to help us out in that area?
There are a dozen to 15 different programs for water and wastewater, and some of them actually absolutely go to rehabilitation of existing infrastructure. And I'll give you an example. Y'all don't have much of a gravity system, but right now a big problem in the state of Florida is gravity systems that are leaking water in. They have call it I&I, infiltration and inflow, and it causes stormwater or groundwater to end up going to your wastewater plant and taking capacity out of your wastewater plant. There's funding to stop those leaks so that you gain more capacity in a wastewater plant. So I can't right off the top of my head, without understanding your system better and saying, okay, this issue here is a water quality issue. Well, there's 3 programs out there that we can submit to for water quality funding type programs. And so, like I said, there's a dozen to 15 funding programs at the Water Management District or through DEP, and we match up your projects. I mean, sometime in the next 3 or 4 months, as we're going through budgeting process, we're going to be meeting with your team to determine what your utility priorities are. The top 5 or 6 things that you want to accomplish in your water and wastewater area. Be happy to compile that information and make it a presentation to you as you're kicking off your budget process and saying, we met with staff, here are what we are seeing as your priorities. Do you guys want to weigh in on that and rank them? And then we take those priorities, it's part of what we do, we take those priorities and match them up with all the funding programs that are available to us at the local water management district level, at the even with your local funding through infrastructure tax, if you've got any left available, through the state, through the federal government to some degree, but typically federal funding comes through earmarks, and the district that we live in just doesn't do federal earmarks. So that's a little bit of a disadvantage for us at this point. But we will begin to develop. They call it a financial impact plan for you. That's one of the very first things we do in our communities, where we start figuring out what your utility priorities are and how are we going to find the funding so that you can address those priorities.
And that would go the same way as we were talking about to help with the infrastructure study or impact fee studies. Do y'all have any tool for that for us to look at that, or is that something you're going to have to initiate?
In terms of a grant, yes. Normally, I recommend not the Water Management District, Florida Rural Water Association, but I got an email this afternoon that said that, hey, they're not currently doing those impact fee studies for clients. They're short-staffed, and that's not their main thing. It's kind of an ancillary thing, but that there's enough need in Florida. I'm going to have an honest conversation with our fiscal solutions team to say, why aren't we doing those studies for communities that would like to have them? And we understand, it's doubtful that they're free, but we also understand that the communities that need them can't afford them. So we're definitely not coming in with a $30,000 study for something like that. It'll be as economical as we could get there, so that the communities that need them can have them.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be a big plus on our
Mr. Mayor,
stuff.
if I could ask a question, just kind of a piggyback, and this would probably be to you, Danielle.
Sure.
If we've already got an approved development that came in under the previous impact fees, we changed those before construction started, do we have to honor the old impact fees when that development was approved?
Impact fees are pulled at the time that the building permit is pulled.
Correct.
Beautiful.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. New.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
All right, city attorney reporting update.
I'll be brief. I've got 2 things for you. There is presently a Senate bill. There's not a companion House bill, but there is a 180 fix-it bill floating around in the Senate right now. It's Senate Bill 840. If you'll recall, Senate Bill 180 is the one that says you can't make your land development code more restrictive until 2027, something to that effect. there's presently a fix-it bill that bumps up the timeline, bless you, to June of 2026 is the sunset date for 180, which is obviously would be huge for a number of cities. So if you're speaking to representatives, if you're going to the legislative days, if you're in contact with them, can't encourage that enough. That would be a phenomenal fix for local governments. The second is that yesterday we hosted a meeting amongst who was there? Newberry, Micanopy, Williston, Stark, Alachua, and High Springs to talk about how we fund our budget if this ad valorem bill goes through. And so we have, believe it or not, we weren't able to fix the woes of financing in an hour and a half yesterday, but I wanted to bring to you all's attention that Folds Walker is committed to helping you all through this. And so we're trying to unite your finance directors and your city managers such that when we think of ideas, everybody benefits, because everyone is going to be affected if one of these bills go through that reduce or eliminate property taxes. So we have already started the process of kicking around ideas to potentially make up funding. Every city had something to contribute yesterday as an idea that another city hadn't considered. So I just wanted to let you all know that throughout the course of the summer, we're going to continue to have those meetings with cities and with other local governments to see how folks are getting ready to handle this change in financing. So that's it for me.
City manager report and update.
Had a update with our auditors today. Audit is moving along nicely. And next week, we have interviews set up for Public Works Director and Finance Director. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Howell.
Just looking at the bills, the update on the property one that I read was exemption for homestead. I don't know, something to watch. The other one, they had another meeting, I think, last night for the school board.
Commissioner Whites.
Mr. Marshall, I wanted to follow up with you if there's been anything about the volleyball court access to the gym, and what, if anything, can we do?
I'm meeting with Jen Appleby next week on that.
Okay.
She sent out some emails. The
Right.
school board responded to her today. I haven't seen that response, but I'll be talking to her next week about that.
Okay. If there's
not
anything I
much-
can do.
There's not much we could do. They're digging their feet in, but we'll figure it out.
Well, I mean, in terms of long-term planning for that, can we think about partnering with the county in terms of using Wild Spaces, Public Places money that they have just sitting there in interest to help us build some kind of multi-purpose? We've needed it forever. We don't have the money. That's obviously not going to solve things for right now.
Yep.
But, would the county be willing to partner in with us to, pay for it? Seriously, I mean, we need it. What other options do we have? Could we use a different school? Could any school, obviously Alachua is probably tied up with their own. Easton's gonna be tied up with Newberry. Are there any other locations that are options? Could we partner with FCA?
I'll check with Jen.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm happy to help if there's anything I can do. So you said the audits are moving forward. I thought we were in kind of a holding pattern.
So we have CKH is the consultants that are helping us with the audit. They're getting the reports and the trial balances finished for 2024's audit. And the auditors are in that gray, the actual auditors are in that gray area, but they're still doing the checklist. So when they get out of that, we can automatically go right into ours, and we got a lot of it done. So it's still moving, just because we don't have a finance director. It's point I'm saying is it's still moving forward. We're not stalled.
So do you feel like there's any risk of us losing our CRA?
Losing it?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But we've been in contact with JLAC. We got the extension for, they're not gonna do any action. We got an extension for that. and they know that we're hiring a finance director and what's going on.
Okay,
So we're in constant contact with JLAC.
okay. And this may be a question for you or the attorney, I'm not sure, but in terms of the wastewater extension project here up the road, did we make any progress? Do we know what's happening? Because we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth
Is
of
that
materials.
236?
Yes,
Sorry,
yes,
we call
ma'am.
it so many different things.
Yes, yeah.
I think we have made progress. I can't disclose it right now just
Understood.
because we're still trying to work out the access issue.
Okay.
But I do think positive progress was made this week, Monday. I got some good news. So, hoping that's probably something that's going to have to come in front of you all if I had to wager in solving this access issue matter. So, just due to the funds and whatnot, and providing someone with legal access. We've got I'll have a full presentation for you all when it is ready to be presented to you to explain kind of the intricacies of how it's all worked out. I hate to be so cagey about it. I'm just trying to resolve it amongst attorneys to see if this is a viable option to then be able to subsequently present it to you. Obviously, I have no authority to bind this commission or this city to anything, but I want to make sure that the option that I think may be feasible is one in which the property owner is amenable to as well prior to.
So are we realistically at risk for losing this funding
No.
because we're up against the deadline?
No, that was a question posed to Tim Norman the other day in the meeting that we had, and Tim made the comment that we need to not be dragging our feet, but he doesn't think at this point in time we're at risk of losing the funding. There's extensions, so on and so forth. So
And he's on top of that?
yes, Tim
Okay.
is on top of that.
Okay. And I wanted to follow up, we talked about at the last meeting, the email that we all got from a concerned business owner. And Mr. Marshall and I were gonna try to meet with him, and he declined our request for a meeting. So, I was disappointed in that, but some of the stuff that he brought out, I did wanna make sure that we cleared up in terms of the parking spaces. Commissioner Howell said that is not a dead issue. It's still going on. It was just, had to be modified, trying to find a different location. And the billboard marketing grant that was co-authored, it implied that the city dropped the ball, and that does not appear to be the case at all. And I really did want to have a face-to-face conversation about the concerns, but I guess my request for you, Mr. Marshall, and I'm not asking to know any detail beyond the conversation we're having here right now, is what is the source of this information? This is misinformation that he's getting, and I'd like to understand how that's getting there, and that may or may not be a city issue. I don't know. It could just be that it's, talk among downtown, but, there's specific stuff here about routine projects consistently sitting unresolved for months without clear direction or follow-through. I don't know what that means, and I don't know if we can actually resolve a lot of this, but if there's information that's getting out to the business owners that's inaccurate, I want to make sure that we can make sure that they're getting accurate information, because their success is our success. I mean, the better our businesses are doing, the better it is for the whole community, and I'd really like to try to, wrap some arms around it. And so I would just ask you if the commission is agreeable that, we figure out where the disconnect is, if we can. And again, I don't want to know anything more about it. It's just kind of frustrating. And I wanted to thank Chief Shepherd and JT for their representation at Carl Hodson's memorial. It was an impressive event. The number of people that were there, unbelievable. And his wife spoke, I don't know how she did it. But Chief, I thank you and all your officers for being there to say a proper goodbye. So thank you, sir.
Vice Mayor Bloodworth.
I'm good.
So I guess to piggyback on your, miscommunication and misinformation, I think on our end it's just going to be difficult. People have social media platforms where they're allowed to say whatever, whether it's true or not. And I think it's not our battle to try to fight. We just get up here, we tell the truth, and kind of leave it as that. And people are either going to believe it or they're not. But, we have a lot of people that are social media influencers. not by job title, but they have become influencers, and they get on Facebook and they say whatever. And I think that our job is just to ignore the small stuff and just address it when we can. So speaking of social media, our police department has been rocking it like crazy. Everybody has been paying attention to our police department this week. So our employees of the week, we got 2, Officer Demper and Officer Vance. They did a great job on the arrest of a theft case involving more than $20,000. And we thank them for their detail in that criminal case. I had a question about the Springbrook. So since we had issues with our in that department, if we get a new finance director, is it feasible for us maybe to see about getting a Springbrook training? Is that possible, or is there training out there?
Training for the commission for Springbrook?
No, for the new whoever is going to be.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
new-
no, we'll work with them. But we're also gonna be pricing out a new accounting software as well. Springbrook is pretty antiquated. The auditors have said that that's not part of the issue, but nobody uses Springbrook anymore and the updates aren't out there. So when we get a new finance director, one of the things they'll be charged with is to evaluate the fees of, is Springbrook still meeting our needs, or do we need to look for something? But there is trainings on Springbrook.
Yeah, so that was just my question. If we couldn't get a new system,
Yeah.
was there training out there that we could just put them through to make sure that they know it better? And that is all my